This is a quick video I'm making to talk about how I like to pick up fighting games when a game drops or when I'm getting into a game. So I'm putting this out because right now there's a lot of interest in Xrd because of the rollback announcement, and I think this is one of the first games since Strive's drop where we'll see a good enough interest of people who want to play a new game and actually stick to playing a new game. So, this is my guide to how I try learning new games and just some tips that I think make the process way easier. So before getting into anything, the first thing is obviously picking a character. And your top priority when you pick a character should definitely be picking a character that is fun for you. It could be a character that's good. Maybe you want a character that has like command throws, then you would be like, oh, I want to play Potemkin. Or maybe you want a character who just kind of gets in your face and starts smacking you. You get like Mei, you got Soul, lots of options. So ultimately pick a character that is fun for you, and then pick a character that has like mechanics you like. I picked Kai, so we're going to be talking about some Kai stuff today. After you pick a character, before I learn anything like significantly with a character, I just like to see what their buttons look like. And there's a lot of wiki resources for this. There's probably videos and guides for your character. I think just mashing for a little bit is totally good. Like, you don't have to think about anything when you go in. Just push buttons and see what's happening. And no, Kidney Kum is not back. We're on Kai now. So, like, first time you're choosing a new character, just see, like, what buttons look like, how far buttons go, stuff like that. This is the honeymoon phase of learning a new character. It's just like, I'm just going to push buttons and see what they look like. You're not going to worry about combos or anything. Just see, like, oh, this button goes pretty far. This is probably good for keeping them out. Or, oh, this button's pretty close range, so I got to get closer to use that button. When you're like experimenting with a character, it doesn't have to be perfect. You kind of just want to see stuff and get like a general feel for things. And also, my last tip of advice when picking a character is to pick and stick. Don't just keep swapping around characters. Like, find a character you like and just kind of commit to learning them. Second thing I like to do when I'm learning a new character is immediately after I've picked a character and gotten familiar with stuff is learning combos and like one knockdown setup. No matter what game you pick, learning a combo is going to be important because it gets you out of that mindset of, oh, I got a hit. What do I do now? If you feel comfortable being able to execute a combo, then all you're trying to do is look for that hit. And then once you have that hit, you do your combo and you get your setup. So I think learning combos is like the most essential thing to do once you have a character down, just because it takes a lot of mental strain off you. So then you can focus on, where do I press this button? What happens when I do this? Like that. Setups are also the equally important part for that, depending on your game. For Guilty Gear, knowing your setups is extremely important because this is a game centered around knocking someone down, making them block, and doing that over and over again. And last tip on this is, it doesn't have to be optimal. Like, the combos you learn can be super basic. Like, that can be your day one combo. It's just getting a knockdown there, and your day one setup doesn't have to be Kai's fancy grinder Oki. Your day one setup can also just be the heavy fireball. There you go. That's an example of like a day one combo and a day one setup. Work on the important stuff, the crazy stuff later. Just have a good starting point. The next thing I like learning about is how the system mechanics work. And depending on how you learn, like, you could do this before you learn combos, but I kind of find it useful after I learn combos. Xrd is a game that is very dense with a lot of system mechanics. Aside from normal blocking, there's instant blocking, which your character will flash white and it'll say just on the screen for. There's barrier, faultless defense. This pushes people away and uses some of your tension. There's blitz, which, again, I'll let you look into these on your own time on the wikis. There's dead angles, which is when you block and you have like an invincible counterattack that just pushes them off you. There's bursts, there's backdashes. This is a very mechanically dense game. So that's why I like learning these a bit later. Once I get an idea of like, I want to knock them down, what are ways they get around that? And what are ways that you avoid getting knocked down? And then also, part of system mechanics is learning how pressure works. So in Strive, your Gatlings are quite limited. Close slash gives you a lot of options. And similarly in this game, close slash is oftentimes the cornerstone of your offense. If you get close slash, you can go into sweeps, you can go into more pressure, you can set up frame traps, you can get confirms, stuff like that. So learning about the system mechanics for offense is very important for getting along in the game, because you won't know how to structure your offense without looking into those system mechanics. With that out of the way, so now we have a character choice. We know what some of their buttons look like. We know like a day one combo and a day one setup. And we know a little bit about system mechanics, like, oh, I'll just barrier more, I'll backdash stuff, etc. The next thing is obviously playing the game. You can't spend all your time in the lab. And for me, what I find most helpful when I start playing a game is I like playing against very good players. And the reason for that is I don't mind getting my ass beat, for one thing, but also good players will show you the flow of the game better. When you're playing against a good player, if they're not sandbagging, they'll be playing like you're a threat. And they'll show you, here's how my offense flows, here's where I'll try to mix you up, and here's what I'm trying to get around what you're doing. Ultimately, play against what you think will help you the most. If you don't want to play against very good people because you don't want to lose a lot or that'll demotivate you, play against your friends. Play against people of a similar skill level. Play against people who like play your character or ask tips. Like, ask for help. Ultimately, that's up to you how you want to play the game. I think, though, playing against someone who is good will show you how to play the game better than anything else. And then my fifth and final tip for picking up new games is understand that this isn't going to be as easy as your main game. You might have like all your crazy setups that you know in Strive. You know, oh, I know all my knockdowns for Kai in Strive. I know how I'm setting up Oki. I know my mix-ups, etc. When you're coming to like a new game, even if it's within like the same franchise, Xrd is still quite different from Strive. So a lot of fundamentals will probably transfer. Like you understand how to block, where I want to push block stuff, like the concepts of frame traps and stuff. But it's not always going to be the same. The flow is going to be different. You're going to get thrown in places that you didn't expect throws. You're going to get mixed up in places you didn't expect mix-ups. So when I go to a new game, basically think of it as New Game Plus. You're starting over, but you've got some things that you can carry over from other games. So it's not all doom and gloom. It's going to be hard. Like, learning a game is always going to be hard, and Xrd is definitely a hard game. However, the learning curve is pretty nice, and if you put in your due diligence, you'll have a lot of fun with this game.